Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and this is my first Adobe live stream of 2019. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a great New Year's. I'm still recovering. I think Gus, who just walked in, is probably still recovering. Paco's over here to the left running the show, live from San Francisco. I love being back here in our amazing, awesome studio. Massive green screen behind me. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Again, we're live from San Francisco. Hello to Heather, Dorina, Tim, one of our awesome moderators, Chaman, Ash, Ashy, Andy. Welcome, everyone. Ahmed. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you did over the New Year's break. One thing that kind of happened over the New Year's break is we released an update to Adobe XD. Most people kind of, it slipped through their radar because of the New Year's break. We were all out with our family doing whatever we do with our family. And hey, Kathleen, welcome. So we wanted to take a little bit of a half an hour or so before we jump into UI and UX week, which is gonna be super exciting. In about half an hour, Josh Iwata is gonna be joining me right here, and he's gonna be designing some really cool stuff. He's a great designer, and then we have a bunch of more guests. We'll get into that later. So I wanna hop over to my screen to kind of show you what's new. And we also an announcement before I get to that. Next week, the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenges are back. I'm super excited. We've been taking a lot of feedback from you. So we're gonna be changing things up just a little bit, not too much, but just enough that I think some of you will be happier with the XD Daily Challenge. Not that you were unhappy before, but we're definitely making changes. We're listening, and our Slack channel is going crazy. We have over 10,200 people, and that's gonna continue into next week for the Daily Creative Challenge. We have people from Paris and London and Turkey and New York City, Atlanta, Northern Virginia. Awesome, I love seeing, and Brazil, I love seeing all these amazing people. So, what did we release last month? And we also have an update coming in January at some point. Not today, but at some point before January 31st. That's gonna be fun. So last month, we did take a break after Adobe Max, but we're gonna get back into the whole monthly releases. But last month, we released all these new features that you see at the top here. And one of the big themes of some of these features is cloud documents. And I'm really excited for cloud documents because right now, they're fairly basic. They allow you to save documents to the cloud, which is nice. Autosave is huge. So as you're working, if you're inactive for 5 seconds, it auto saves it. So you don't have to worry about, if your computer crashes, that document will be there safe in the cloud. You can jump back and forth between computers. So if I'm working on my design right here on my laptop, go over to my desktop, it's gonna be there waiting for me. Faster sharing, that sort of thing. But the thing that I really wanna stress is that cloud documents is leading up to much bigger things. So it's kind of the foundation for some really exciting things that are coming down the line. And hey, Van Dam, one of our youngest designers, I believe he's 9 years old. He's a great designer. And Andrew Shorten, our Senior Director of Product Management, put out this blog post with that update. And he talks about some of the features that are in this update, but down here, this is what I'm really excited about. He kind of spills the beans on some of the things that are coming that Cloud Documents paves the way for. Things like faster sharing. Who doesn't like faster sharing? Live collaboration. So if you and your team are working on something, you might not be in the same room, you might be across the world, you can all work on the same project together live. That's gonna be really cool. Versioning. So you no longer will have to make 7,000 documents with underscore 01, underscore 01 final, underscore, you get the idea. We've all done it. And then design systems. With Adobe XD now, we can make design systems, but I think Cloud Documents is gonna supercharge that even more. So it'll, empower you to make a really robust design system that you can share with your team, your colleagues, or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming. I've seen some of it. It's really cool. So that's coming in the future, but Cloud Documents kind of paves the way for some of that stuff. So David says autosave is a game changer. It's really cool. You don't realize how much you need it until your computer crashes or something happens, you quit by mistake, and you open it up, it's just there waiting for you. So let me hop over to Adobe XD, and you'll notice that by default, when you, let me go ahead and create, let's say an iPhone 6, 7, 8 Plus document, and you'll notice that it automatically puts it in the cloud for you. But you have the option, right? So when I do go ahead and save this document, Command and Control S, I can choose whether to save it in the cloud, or I can save it locally on my computer. I can save it wherever I please. So you don't have to save it in the cloud. That is just an option if you need it. So that's always fun. You can also transition documents to the cloud. So this document here is a fun design that I created, which, by the way, while I'm here, we also now have object flipping. And I want to get to that in a second, but you know, I have this frame selected. If I want to just flip it, I can just press these buttons over here. We can flip it horizontally, we can flip it vertically, we can flip it all the way we want. And we can also rotate it if we excuse me. So I can just press that, I can flip it. Now it just looks weird and wonky, so let me undo that. But object flip is there. And what's really cool is we have a dedicated team now working on some of these smaller quality of life improvements that I think, you know, we'll start to see more of that trickle in over the next year. And we're gonna see some cool stuff, because there's a lot of, obviously the bigger features people want in Adobe XD, like live collaboration and versioning. But there's also a lot of smaller things like object flipping that are kind of necessary for an application like this that we're gonna start to see more of over the coming months and years. So that's kind of cool. So object flipping, now available in Adobe XD. Mind-blowing stuff. So this document is a local document, and you can tell it's local because there's no cloud. So there's a few ways to save a document to the cloud. I can either go to the share menu and then share this document, and this will prompt me to save as, or I can just go up to the top, file, save as, and this will allow me to, I can just type in Banksy painting, and then just make sure to choose cloud documents. And Dan is asking, resizing symbols independently, sorry. Yes, it is in the works. I can confirm that resizing symbols is in the works. I can't tell you when it's coming, but it's coming. So Banksy painting and save, and now all of a sudden it's being saved to my document. And even if you're using the free version of Adobe XD, you can save files to the cloud. You do have a limited amount of storage space, but there is storage space there, so you can do that and you can access it through, you know, your multiple devices. So cloud documents are fun. Autosave, you'll notice if I make a change here and I let go for about 5 seconds, it will, give it a second, it will note, there it goes, saving. You can notice it up here, and it's saved. Really cool. So it also enables, you know, better work with linked symbols. And if I hop over to Finder, I have all these Illustrator files. And by the way, as of a few months ago, actually October, you can now import Illustrator files directly into Adobe XD, which is super cool. But I have this file here I grabbed from Adobe stock. It's a bunch of icons, and I may want to just drag it into Adobe XD down at the bottom. It's going to open up. If you are on Windows, under the File menu, just go to Open, find that file and open it up. I don't believe you can drag it directly into XD on Windows. So here's this, you know, icon sheet, sticker sheet, whatever you want to call it. Hey, Anel, welcome. And Void from Serbia, welcome. So here's a bunch of icons that I might want. And by default, because it was a local file already, it's local. But if I save it, let me actually save as, file, save as. And I can save this as, let's say, icon sheet. Make sure to save it to the cloud and press save. It will take a few seconds to save because it is going up to the cloud and it's a pretty large document. There's a lot going on in this document. But all of this stuff is an Illustrator file. So you'll notice in the layers panel, it's all vector. There's all my shapes. There's all my icons. It's a path. There's my shadows, all that fun stuff. So this, I can now take this and share it with my colleagues, and they will be able to use these files. But what's really neat is that, you know, with assets and symbols, if I go ahead and convert these all to symbols, then all of a sudden, they have those symbols as well. And if I update it on my end, they will be able to get those changes. So let's say for an example, you know, I wanted, I'm looking at this just to touch on some assets for a second. I'm looking at this, I don't like this blue. I might want it a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more blue, not so much whatever this blue is. So I'm gonna go over to my assets panel over here. Here's my assets logo. Click on that, whoops. And I might wanna change this blue across my entire document. And what's cool about the assets panel when you're working with colors or character styles, it also works retroactively. So if I grab this shape here, let me dig into that, and I can tell that I have that shape selected because the blue is over here. I'm simply gonna press the plus button beside colors in my assets panel. It's gonna add that color to the assets. And now if I wanna change this, I just have to right click on it, press edit, and then change it. And you're noticing it's changing across the entire document. So even though that color was not there when those shapes were created, I can always add that later on, and it's going to make that change. So I like that. It's looking pretty good right there. And this shadow, I might want to add that. And maybe I might want to just drop the opacity a little bit. And it's changing it through all these icons at the bottom. I can do the same thing for this one. I can add that, make a change, drop the opacity. You get the idea. So assets is really cool. But when you start to introduce cloud documents, it gets even better. So let's say, what icon looks good? Let's go with this icon. And ideally, as you're creating these things, you would turn them all into symbols. But let me select all these shapes here. And I'm gonna just turn this into a symbol, Command and Control K, or I can press the plus button beside symbols right over here. And now it's a symbol. So I can make changes. I can also, go back and make the edits if I wanted to, and that also updates the symbols. So even if all of these were symbols, I can still do that. But the important thing to note is that now this is going to be a linked symbol if anyone in my team starts using it. So if, let's assume the position of me being a colleague, and I have this, someone just sent me this cloud document with all these icons. I can just grab this symbol right here and deselect, grab. Gotta deselect everything. There we go. Okay, here we go. Got my symbol. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna go over to, let's say, this document here and simply paste it. And you're gonna notice we now have this green icon on the top left. That indicates that it's a linked symbol. And even though that other document was in the cloud, it still comes over as a linked symbol. Now, the importance of this is that it can be kept up to date by the document owner. So let's say, going back to me as the document owner, I figure, you know what? I'm not a big fan of the color anymore. I kind of want to go back to a more, desaturated color. So I'm gonna edit. Let's drop this a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna accept those changes and save the document. So let's go ahead and wait for it to save. Should take, there we go, it's saved. So now going back to this other document right over here, and even if I'm working 7,000 miles away in another country, and I'm distracted by comments, when will real-time prototyping work for Android? It is in the works. There are some technical things that the team is working on, but all that stuff is in the works. So even if I'm in another country working on this document, because it's saved to the cloud and because I'm connected to the internet, it's now notifying me, as indicated by this little blue link symbol. It's no longer green, it's now blue, that a change has been made. So if I go to my assets panel right over here, you're noticing, and this is an old symbol, I can probably get rid of that. You're noticing that blue symbol is also there. And what's cool is, as of the last update, you now have live preview. So I can just hover over top of this blue icon, and you're noticing it's in the document. Hopefully it's coming through on, it looks like it should be. You can actually see the change before you accept it. So if I like that, I can go ahead and just click on it, or I could have clicked on the blue icon at the bottom. And if you had multiple, if let's say I had all these different symbols in this document, I can just update them all at once if I want to by hitting that blue icon or that blue button at the bottom. So linked symbols and cloud documents work really nicely hand in hand. And again, going back to Andrew's blog post, with design systems, they're gonna get even better as time goes on. So that's really cool. That's, if you're not using linked symbols in general, definitely start using those. And if you're not using cloud documents, maybe consider it, because there's also a lot of different things that you can do, including allows you to preview your prototyping on the go. So traditionally, you had your documents that you could save to your Creative Cloud libraries. But you also, you can preview so this one here, right? I can preview on my desktop if I press play, and I start clicking, let's say Adobe XD, big fan of Chipotle, and fitness. No, I'm not a big fan of fitness. Maybe I'm a fan of space instead, right? So this is kind of previewing on the desktop. And if I want to preview this on my phone to get a more real world experience, what I'm able to do is plug this directly into my computer, and then I can preview it using the Adobe XD app on iOS or Android. But what's nice about Cloud Documents is because this is saved to the cloud, I can now access it on my phone without being plugged in. So I have a phone here, it is plugged in, but it's not plugged into this computer. It's actually plugged into Paco's computer over there. So if I switch over to that, there we go. So I have all my Cloud Documents on my phone. I don't have to show you, you can see it over here. I have all the Cloud Documents over there, and if I tap on any of them, let's say that same document, it's gonna load the document. It might load the document because my internet is not great. Oh, here it goes. It's going. I'm not connected to Wi-Fi, and I'm stuck in a soundproof studio. Brilliant, Howard. Here we go. All right, so I have the exact same prototype on my phone, and again, I could be anywhere. And I can also allow, let me actually go back for a second. I can set this for available offline. So even if I'm on a subway or in a soundproof room with no internet connection, I am able to access this prototype because it's saved in my Cloud Documents, right? So I can, just like before, I can tap. Auto Animate works beautifully on mobile prototypes and space. There we go. So that works. That's another benefit of Cloud Documents. And you know, there's a lot of really cool things you can do. Hotspot hints is another fun addition to the mobile app if you have not used. Let me go back. So basically, if you know you're using this with somebody, you're getting user testing, and they don't know exactly where to tap, if they tap anywhere on the screen, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a hotspot hint. So they know to tap on Adobe XD, not sure where to tap, Chipotle, fitness, tap on fitness again. You get the idea. So again, Cloud Documents definitely powers a lot of really cool things that are available right now, but also will be available at some point, more things that are coming at some point in the future. So one more thing I wanted to touch on before we kind of wrap up, I might have to go through a few other things before we do that, is we can now search in layers, which is great because previously we were able to search in our assets panel, but we can now also search in our layers panel. So over here, I have this document that you just saw, and there are a lot of layers, a lot of text layers spanning across all these different artboards. But if I want to very quickly find a layer that's kind of common between all of these, all I have to do is, let's say I want to find the space layers, right? I just have to type in space. And it's gonna find me all the groups, all the text layers, all the whatevers that have the word space in them. It's also a reason why you should definitely name your layers, name your groups, name everything. Because if you do have to find these things, it's gonna be super helpful. And if you do have any questions while I'm kind of wrapping up and recapping last month's update, let me know and I'll try to answer them. Except any hints about this month's update, I cannot give you those yet. And you can also, let me go back. If you want to just see text layers, you can press this little drop down, go to text, and you have all your text layers here, and then you can filter it even more. So I could just type in space, and now it shows me just my text layers that are named space. And Dorina is also asking if live preview will be available for Android phones in the future. I would assume so, but I know the team is working on some technical things to make that happen. But make sure to go to adobeXD.uservoice.com so that the team knows. Make sure to upvote it, because a lot of that stuff is prioritized based on what users want. So things like auto animate, micro interactions, that was prioritized because a lot of people upvoted that and commented on that on user voice. How about any hints for next month's update? Tim, I can't do that, but we're halfway through January, so it's got to be soon, right? Maybe. Maj is asking any updates on font previews. There's a lot of things about fonts that are kind of in the works. I can't reveal much of those, but fonts are going to get some love this year. I can tell you that. So again, Cloud Documents, brings autosave. You can work from anywhere. So if I'm here, go to my desktop, it's gonna be there. Faster sharing, search, a lot of cool things, improvements to mobile. And then that's all in addition to the big update in October, which was from Adobe Max. We introduced voice and search. Let me know in the comments if you do use voice yet. I know it's not something that everyone's gonna use, but as voice assistants get a lot more popular, and even applications that have voice control in them become more popular, a lot of people are starting to use voice, not completely for their applications, but they're kind of sprinkling it in, which is really nice. And then plugins. Plugins is probably one of my favorite things that a lot of people are kind of exploring, but some people don't know plugins are there. So let me actually go back over here. And one of my, I do have it, change case. So a lot of people have been asking why we cannot change the case, like make all the text uppercase or lowercase directly in Adobe XD. That's something that's definitely in the works. But until that arrives in XD natively, there's a plugin for that. And there's a good chance there's a plugin for a lot of things that you might want in XD. So change case, for example, let me say I have this layer selected. Go to plugins, change case. I want it all uppercase. Now it's all uppercase. Now, of course, there are a few weird things that went on. The red text kind of changed as well. So that might be a bug that might be fixed at some point, but I can change it to all lowercase. I can change it to title case. There's a lot I can do with just plugins. One of my other favorite plugins is UI faces. So if you're working on like a contact list or something like that, you can basically pull in different faces from all around the world, different genders, hair colors. You can randomize it, different ages and things like that. It's a pretty cool plugin. And then of course, we have probably the biggest one is Auto Animate that came in October. And that's really powering some really cool stuff. Let me actually go back over here. Something just silly I created with Auto Animate. We've all seen the Banksy poster, right? I mean, my boss, actually Rufus, who's hosting Adobe Live in Germany, I think this week, created this template in Photoshop that lets you very quickly cut up a poster, kind of like, or painting, kind of like the Banksy poster. So I used that, brought that into XD, and then with some simple masks, you can see here there's two masks. There's a unshredded and a shredded version. Auto Animate, just basically two artboards, and they just hooked up to each other, linked back, and cool stuff. And then this one I've been working on, you may have seen on Dribbble. If I press play, I can click on these various icons, and you notice the mask moved as well. So masks can be animated as well. So hopefully, you caught some tips in this very quick, short stream for, recapping last month's update. Again, Cloud Documents right now allows you to autosave, work from anywhere, preview your stuff on the go, faster sharing, but they're leading up to things like live collaboration and versioning, better design systems and things like that. So there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff coming in the next year, and that's on top of a bunch of other things that are being worked on that I wish I can, spill the beans on, but not just yet. And if you're sticking around, I would definitely recommend you stick around. We have a great UI and UX week coming up. Here's the schedule here. I'm gonna be back right in this chair in about 5 minutes or so with Josh Iwata. He's gonna be designing some really cool stuff. Heba, I always get that wrong, I'm sorry, is gonna be hosted by Melody, and Christine is gonna be back with me at 1 o'clock designing we're all gonna be designing some cool stuff. Actually, I'm not gonna be designing anything. I'm sitting here and talk to Josh. So I'll see you all in a few minutes. Definitely update Adobe XD if you haven't yet. Get some coffee, and we'll see you back in, 5 minutes or so.